Alright, so I got my hands on a Valken V12 engine with the new firmware. If you guys don't know, most of you guys probably don't know, that Valken V12s are starting to come with a new firmware. It's nice that, Valken updated it after so long not having any updates whatsoever. I prefer the old system just for simplicity. It was so simple. I wish somehow there was a way to choose which system that you could, have. Or maybe sold the original, firmware ones and then sell new ones. Or maybe have a setting to where you can revert to the new firmware or the old firmware on the same engine. That would be a nice feature, like program lockout. Just like that sort of feature, you can hold the trigger down for, what is it, like 30 seconds or something in order to lock it out. Or the reset feature, I think, is like you hold the trigger down for a minute. It would be cool if maybe you did 2 minutes and it switched and reverted to the new firmware or the old firmware. That would be pretty cool. I have the old firmware inside of my MP5 and my M4. Of course, I've done tons and tons of customers with the old firmware. The new firmware is very, very confusing in my opinion, but at the beginning when I had first gotten my Valken V12, my first one that was in my M4, I've had that one for 3 years. The first, almost year, I had no idea what I was doing at programming HPA. And so I was super confused, blah, blah, blah. And then the holy close bolt came upon me, and it saved a lot of things. So yeah, I have the old firmware inside of my MP5. Apparently, and my M4, apparently you can ship your old firmware into Valken and have them, or your FCU, and have them download the new firmware. If you're considering doing that, I wouldn't recommend it. If you have the old firmware, I would not recommend it. I'm going to go ahead and go over what... I'm not going to... This is not a video on showing you how to program it. I'm just talking about the differences between the old and the new because a lot of people do not know. As far as if you buy yours from eVike, are you going to get a brand new one? Well, the firmware has been out for about a month, if I'm not mistaken. And just about 2 or 3 weeks ago, I had purchased a brand new Valken V12 from eVike, and it was the original system. So you're probably still going to get the original systems. It's hard to say. Look in the description where you buy them from, but it's probably the old systems are probably going to dry out, which I prefer the old systems. But you do what you got to do. There are some features in this that is nice. So pretty much I'm just going to go over the features. The colors totally changed too, which is the biggest issue for me because it is extremely hard for, basically you have to relearn the colors pretty much. So solid red used to be dwell, and now it's rate of fire. Totally different. So the difference between the rate of fire on this new firmware is basically you can do exact numbers. So with the V12s, the old ones, it went by 5. So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 60, 65. Whereas this goes by 1s, so you can do it by 1s or 10s. So how you do this is basically, it's kind of confusing. So it's very, very confusing. I guess I'll give you a short tutorial on how to program it. So you pull the trigger, you switch to semi-auto. Okay, so semi-auto pops up, and it's going to be red. And so you're going to hold it down. I'm going to see many times it flashes. 3 times, so that's 30 RPS, and then it flashes 5 times on red, which is 5. So this is set for 35. So potentially you could do 17 rounds a second or 19 rounds a second. It doesn't go by 5s. You can put it at whatever you want. Just like a Fusion engine or just like a Jack or any other HPA engine, you can do exact numbers. So for this, it's very, very confusing. In order to program it, you have to switch it to semi. Okay, and let's say I do the 3 trigger pulls, blah, 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 so 30, and then as soon as I pull the trigger, dang it, that's probably going to program it. No, okay, good. I'm still very new to this, so I don't want to mess any of the settings up and have to go redo them. But basically, you hold the trigger down, go to semi, pull the trigger 3 times for 30, and then you swipe it to full auto, and then you pull the trigger 5 times for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for 35. And then you wait for it to come back on, the light, and then you can flip it. So you have to do it in one swoop. You can't just do, 30, turn it off, and then do full auto and do the 5 for, you know, the 35. You do it in one sweep, which is very confusing. I did do that wrong, and I had to get some help on that. Green setting is different firing modes. Now, one thing that is really nice about this new system is you're going to get 3 to 9 round bursts, so just like any other HPA engine, and then you can use binary feature. Binary feature is also known as pull and release. So you pull the trigger, it fires, you release, it fires. Pretty cool. A lot of fields are going to ban that, so flat off, just right off the bat, a lot of fields do not allow that. It's you know what we've come to in airsoft. You can't do this, you can't do that, blah blah blah, because you know someone's offended. So it sucks. Personally, I would not use pull and release, but some people do like that type of feature, I guess. Some people are like, oh, there's no real guns that do that. Actually, there are. It's called a binary trigger, just like they call it here on real guns. You can do pull and release on an AR-15. They make trigger sets for that, so it's a real thing. It's not, so you can't use that excuse that it's not realistic. Blue is sniper close bolt. That's always on, of course. Purple is dynamic tuning, which is basically, this is pretty confusing. So you set your rate of fire, and it automatically sets your, I believe it's the flashing red and the flashing green. Those are the nozzle timing. So the timing that your nozzle stays back, the timing that your nozzle stays forward. Okay, so basically you set your rate of fire and you set your dwell manually, and you set close bolt. Everything else automatically sets itself. So it's really, really, really cool. But in a way, it kind of sucks because I have had tons and tons of guns that you have to fine-tune perfectly, like the nozzle timing on the rear. If the nozzle timing is too high, your nozzle's not going to seal and have time to seal the BB before your poppet fires and shoots air out of your barrel, which can lead to lots of inconsistent shots. So the lower the green setting, the better, in my experience, and the same thing with the blue setting. Now, of course, all the colors changed on here, so I haven't even changed the forward and backward timing. I'm just going to leave it as is. When I install this engine for my friend on Saturday, I'm going to see how it works, and then I might have to go in and change the settings. I believe those two, flashing red and flashing green, are the nozzle timing back and forward. And then this flashing blue, the trigger debounce. I don't know if this is a delay on semi-auto. That's the only thing that I could think that would be. And then flashing, purple lockout. And then what is it to? Also, they added a different color, aqua. That's the poppet dwell. So you have to adjust that, adjust your rate of fire, close bolt, or if you want to do open bolt, I guess do you, and then your other settings will automatically tune themselves, apparently. Apparently you can change it from manual to dynamic. Let me go ahead and see what this is at, actually. I am not 100% sure. Okay, it's on 2. It's on dynamic. So basically what that is, like I said, it'll pre-adjust these features so that it will feed. Again, I don't like that. It's a nice feature for new players, I guess. But if you want like perfect performance and to get perfect seal, I don't see how it could. It seems too good to be true. Let's be honest. You set your rate of fire, you set your dwell, you set close bolt or open bolt, whatever, and then your firing modes, and then it automatically adjusts your timing on your nozzle forward and back, and it feeds 100% and shoots consistently. Hard to believe considering there's so many different magazines out there, so many different BB weights, and so many different bodies for that matter, and hop-up combos. It just seems like it's literally too good to be true on that. But you have the option, so I could do 1 for manual, and then I guess I would have to go through here and adjust them. I'm hoping that the amount of time is the same, though. Apparently you can you do 0.1? No, these are just 1 full milliseconds, which is good. So apparently it's supposed to be the same as the old one, whereas every trigger pull was a millisecond. So hopefully that stays the same. The only few features that I like out of this new setup, I do like the binary that they added that. That's cool because a lot of other HPA engines have that. 3 to 9 round burst is a nice feature. I wouldn't use those. But, you know, you do you. There are, you know, that's an option now, and lots of other HPA engines have those, so that's good. The dynamic tuning, like I said, it seems too good to be true, but I'm going to test it. Don't worry, I will make a video on that gun when I install this, so you'll get an update on it. I do like that the Poppet Dwell, you can do it by 5s. So that's also one thing that changed. So Poppet Dwell, the lowest used to be 2. The Poppet Dwell normally is 2. Maybe if your gun, you know, maybe up to 3. Depends on what weight BBs you're using and stuff, but normally people would run 2 and 3 to save a little bit of air, and it would shoot fine. That's what I've done. But now you could do 0.5, so I could do 3.5. That's what this is on, because on 2, it would not cycle. It was really weird. The nozzle would not move. Sometimes it would move, sometimes it wouldn't, so there wasn't enough air going through the system. Really, really weird, considering I spent an hour trying to figure out if it was, you know, a faulty solenoid, or if the poppet shim that I have on here was, you know, not doing so well and I needed to take it off, or if something was faulty in my poppet. So I tried that, or if the wiring was clipped to the wrong connector in there. I tried so many different things, but it just turned it out just to be the Dwell, which is interesting because I've never had any other previous engine with a Dwell of 2 not cycle. So I just found that a little interesting. So it's at 3.5 now. Maybe 3.5 is still going to be more efficient. Maybe the new system itself is still going to be more efficient, even though the Dwell is higher. That's what I'm hoping. I did shoot this with, you know, I don't have much air in my tank, so I did shoot this, you know, not too much. As far as the efficiency, it's hard to say, again, because I haven't shot it a whole lot, but it does give you the options on this Poppet Dwell to do 0.5. So you could do 2.5 or maybe even 1.5. Again, it just depends on your system, but in the experience of this one, it had to be at above 3. I might have gotten away with, you know, 2.5. It might have cycled. I went ahead and just did, I tried 3. 3 cycled, but it sounded a little underpowered, like, you know, it could use a little bit more air, so I just did 3.5 and it's perfect. I tried 4 first, and it seemed like it was blowing out a lot of air, so I just popped it right in between. So again, I'm just going to make sure that I have to bring this with me when I go to install the engine at the field for this guy. He does have a red nozzle just in case he wants to shoot DMR and shoot 450. But what's currently in here should shoot about 350 at about 80-90 PSI, which is the goal. It's only set for 35 RPS, but still that's fast enough that he should be shooting about 350. I have a trigger waiting to come, so this is not the trigger that's going to be in here, but yeah, other than that, there's really nothing that's changed, nothing in the appearance, which kind of makes it hard to distinguish on what is what, because when I had first got it, it was locked. One good way to know if you have a new engine or an old engine, or a new firmware or an old one, is out of the box, it will be locked. The settings will be locked. I'm pretty sure this one was locked. Again, when I had turned it on, it was different colors, and I was like, what is going on? Blah, blah, blah. And then I did the unlock feature, and then I'm pretty sure it was locked. And then I could change the settings around, but I went through and saw different colors. I was like, what the heck? So then that's when I found out it was the new firmware. So yeah, do I like it? I like it for some reasons I don't. But in the end, it's probably going to be better overall, if not about the same. It's just going to take me more time to learn. For those people out there that want to send me HPA engines to work on like I've done in the past, you can do that. I'll still be able to tune it. I've just got to get more versed in the new system, I guess. It's pretty similar to the old one, like I've gone through. It's not a whole lot different, but there's a few things that, you know, I'm just gonna have to get used to. So if you have any questions, go ahead and let me know. I am gonna have a video on this engine when it is installed in the gun. It's gonna be a pretty nice build, so I'll see you later.